Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Nduma, and today I'll be talking about some mistakes to avoid during the ERAS application cycle. Stick around and enjoy. Some common mistakes to avoid during the ERAS application cycle are as follows. The first one I want to talk about is application review. A lot of candidates just fill their applications out, fill their personal statements, and push everything out and just submit. That's a very bad practice. I strongly encourage that during the ERAS application cycle, when you're working on your personal statement, when you're working on your application, have a second, third, fourth, or even fifth set of eyes. Look at that application, look at all those documents. Um, there are some things, especially for the medical graduates who are from other countries. There are some cultures in America that are different from the cultures where you come from. And so there are some things that you may take very lightly and just put it in your application casually. Meanwhile, those things are red flags. And subconsciously, you don't know, you just subconsciously put them on there. And the second set of eyes, this second set of eyes or third set of eyes could just be applicants who are also applying like you. Reach out to residents and other attendings, or you can even use a professional service. You pay them money and they would do an awesome job for you. I actually have been looking at a lot of applications, but I'm getting overwhelmed. In the last month, I've probably looked through over 100 applications, 100 personal statements, and resumes. But I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm still in residency, and so residency work is a lot, and so having this extra looking at applications, really taking a lot of my time because when I look at applications, I really give very detailed reviews of those applications. So I'm cutting back, and if you send applications to me now, I'm not going to be able to, just respond to you within 24 hours as I normally did, because I'm getting a little overwhelmed. So it's going to take me a little bit. I'll still look through applications when I get the chance, but it's going to take me a little while to do those. But reach out. There are a lot of people who can help. Reach out and just have someone look at your applications and help you change one thing or another. That could be the game changer. So take note of that. The second thing I want to emphasize on during the ERAS application cycle is to network. It looks so simple, but I've said this, especially for older graduates. Networking is the joker in your pack of cards in the ERAS application cycle. Networking can take you places. Networking can take you places where scores will not even take you. And I want to emphasize this, and I cannot emphasize this enough. I'll give you a personal experience. Last year during the ERA cycle, during the SOAP actually, I reached out to the program director of the transition year program in my residency, because I had a candidate that I wanted to, recommend, and I did. I told this candidate to apply to my program, and I was going to the transition program specifically, and I was going to talk to the program director because we had very good rapport. And I did. And the program director was very interested in the candidate. I am a good resident, and so they were very interested in the candidate that I was going to recommend. And so the next day in the morning, I was in his unit during that season, and so we were supposed to go for what round. So the next day in the morning, I showed up in his office ready for rounds, and luckily he was just going through the applications real quick to figure out who he was going to call for interview during that soap. And so when I walked in, he was like, "Hey, who was your candidate again?" I gave the name. He typed it in his computer. No name popped up. At this point, I was nervous. I sent my hand into my pocket, took out my phone, went through my messages, brought out his AAMC number, gave it, read it out to the program director. He typed it in, no name came out. At this point, I was getting pissed and annoyed. I specifically told this candidate, apply for to my program, apply to the transition program, not the category, apply to the transition program because I have a friend over there. And while I was going through all those emotions, the program director of our transition program simply peeped through my phone and saw his year of graduation. And he was like, "Oh, sorry, we have a 5-year cutoff. He graduated 6 years ago. That's why it's not popping up." So he went into the system, changed the criteria, and lo and behold, his name popped up. And he turned around and told the program coordinator to call this candidate for interview. So I immediately text the candidate, "Hey, the program director just said they were going to call you for an interview. Stand by, be around your phone." An hour later, he texted me back, "Oh, I got the interview. I got your message and I got the interview. Thank you so much." 24 hours later, I got a text message from this guy. I just got offered a position at the the transition year program at your at your residency program, and we were all really happy. But what this experience taught me was that, first of all, this guy had a very awesome application, but his application didn't just get the opportunity to be seen. And because of the filters, I used to hear about these filters, but I experienced it in the program director's office firsthand. The filters are going to filter you out. And so if you don't network and have eyeballs look at your application, no matter how good that application is, it's as good as useless. So I cannot overemphasize the importance of networking. I have a whole video that I talk about networking. And so go into my channel, look for my video on networking, watch those videos. If you have questions, put comments, and I'm going to be so happy to take the time to respond to all of your questions to the best of my ability. And so, again, I'm going to re-emphasize networking. As far as I'm concerned, if you're an older graduate, networking is like 70% of your application. I cannot emphasize this enough. So that's a very important part, and that's a mistake that you don't want to avoid, networking during the ERAS application cycle. The third thing that I will encourage applicants, or mistake that I'll encourage applicants to avoid, is not researching programs. Again, this is more so for older medical graduates with several years post graduation. If you research programs, you're going to be able to find programs that meet your specific need. Again, I'll go back to the cutoff. There are programs that just put in the cutoff year of graduation, like the candidate I just talked about. Year of graduation cutoff, you are out. No matter how good your application is, nobody's going to see. So if you don't research programs and actually send your application to the programs that are going to actually take a look at your application, then you're wasting your time. Because if your application is not seen, then you're not considered. And if you're not considered, you can't get an interview or you can't get an offer for residency. So it's very important. Research programs that meet your specific need is a lot of work because you have to go through all programs in the United States, state by state. I actually did some of that when I was, going through the application cycle. First time I applied for residency, I applied to over 300 programs. Second time, over 300 programs. The third time, I applied to 97 programs. And guess what? The first time, over 300 programs, no interview. Second time, over 300 programs, one interview. The third time, I applied to 97 programs, and I got a ton of interviews. I got close to 5 interviews. And so, the difference is clear. Yeah, networking was a large part of it, but I kept updating my personal statement. I kept updating my letters of recommendation, and I networked. I met people in places that I never believed. I was hanging around some people who were taking me places, and that was a game changer for me. And so I cannot overemphasize, networking on one hand, but um, really actually doing research and knowing who to meet is very important, and knowing where to put your application is very important, because those are the things that actually matter, and that are also going to get your application seen, and help you have the opportunity to interview and show the difference that you are. So research. If you don't have the opportunity to research, or if you don't have the time, I know it's already late in the cycle, this is September, then apply wide. Still go ahead and research programs, and research the programs that you can contact easily, but apply widely. If you don't have the time to research, apply widely, just like I was doing. But it's not very effective if you don't research. Applying widely just increases your chances in probability perspective. So, do that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is consistency. It's a mistake. A lot of people just write personal statements going to the left. A lot of people have no idea what their letter of recommendation writers have written in their letters. And so the letter of recommendation is saying one thing, your personal statement is saying another thing, your CV is saying another thing. That is not consistency. That is an automatic dismissal of your application. And that's why, again, it's good to have people look at your application. Number one, because they're going to be able to see these inconsistencies and then help have an application that is flow. Whatever is in your personal statement, if you're going to mention in your CV, it should be consistent. You don't have one thing in your CV and complete opposite in your personal statement, and then in your letter of recommendations. I have another video where I talk about letters of recommendations. You can actually direct what is written in your letter of recommendations. When you approach someone to write you a letter, you outline exactly what you want written in that letter. You have a truce, you have an understanding with the letter writer, and they are going to tell you what they expect from you in order for them to be able to write what you are requesting for. and then you both can work together. If you have a letter writer that is hesitant about doing that, that's not the ideal letter writer that you have to approach for your letters. I think I have a whole video as well that I actually discuss all of that. I would encourage that you go back and look at those. Um, that's also very important. So your application should be consistent. You should have an idea. You may not see the letters. Some letter writers are really awesome. I had the opportunity to see most of my letters. I don't mark them in errors as if I want to see them, but because of the way I carry out my my whole process, these letter writers wrote my letters, and I was able to see them. I know exactly what was in my letters of recommendation, and so that kind of guided how I wrote my personal statement and how I arranged my resume. In order for everything to be consistent and so I can tell one story. Okay. And so I'm going to sum this whole entire video up by saying networking is key. You don't want to miss networking during the ERAS applications cycle. It's already late in September. If you have not networked up to this time, there are still ways of doing it. Watch my video, but you can send letters to programs even up to this point. You can still write letters to programs. It's more efficient if you had been in contact with the program directors and then you're writing a letter right now to catch up. I got one of my interviews that I got from Medical College of Wisconsin was directly connecting with the program director throughout the year. I was doing a master's in health informatics and reached out. I told him I was an older graduate and I wish my application was being looked at. We had a couple of exchanges back and forth. And then when I applied for residency, I sent him an email and said, hey, I just want to let you know my application is in. The next day, I got an interview. That's the power of networking. There are ways you can write these letters. There are ways you reach out to people. These program directors are human beings, so you also want to be very careful not to strike them the wrong way. There are ways to write these letters without coming out maybe too strong, or without making them inconvenient, or without coming out weird, or things like that. Networking is key. I would really encourage that you do that. It's easier if you've done it earlier in the cycle and you're just reaffirming after your application, but it's not too late to do that. It's not too late to drive over to programs and actually meet program directors and program coordinators and residents. It's not too late to connect with people on LinkedIn and communicate and have them review your applications if they have the time. I do that. Most people whose applications I review either meet me through my channels or on LinkedIn. But you can do that. It's not too late, and have these people, one or two people can, to recommend. I have a lot of people asking me to recommend in my program. I already have a long list. Unfortunately, I cannot recommend more people, but it's not too late to reach out to other people. So networking is the one thing that I'm going to end this video with. But most importantly, have a group of eyes look at your application, so that you may have multiple points of views. Make sure you network very efficiently. Make sure your application is consistent, and research programs before you apply. If you don't have the time to research, then apply widely. Applying widely is not very effective, but it sure will do the job. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel, and help me reach a bigger audience so that we can all move to residency together. Have a good day and a blessed week ahead. Bye.